fifth finalist presentation. 18, 19, 20, 21, 26. I knew this a week ago. So again, my name is Dawn Payne. I want to welcome you all here tonight. We are very excited about the grant focus this year, which was women's issues. Our membership decides the grant focus, and then we invite people to apply. Just a quick little brief overview. The Giving Circle started. Is there anyone here who's not familiar with the Giving Circle? All right, then I'm going to cut mine a little short. So we started in 2018. We know that when women and non-binary individuals come together with a goal, we get stuff done. We get to see that in so many different ways. And one of the things that our circle, our values are community, equity, and inclusion. And we believe together we get to have a greater impact, right? On so many different levels. We've had some great events. We've been able to have in-person events this year that have just blown my mind in so many ways. We had a great gathering at the Imagination Station. Oh my God, my brain started working. With Kim Shapee in the spring, and then we had our incredible panelist presentation a month ago, and tonight we're going to get to hear from 3 incredible organizations who have applied for the grant. Just a quick little overview. The fact that they are here means that they do get something. So we have a $10,000 grant. So tonight I want to thank Mary from MCAP for being here and is recording it, and as soon as we're able to turn it around, it'll be on our website, and the vote will go out. So we kind of leave abroad, we say December 15th. I think last year we got it done by December 1st. If it's not on December 15th and you haven't heard from us, I'm going to be somewhere else. So you can call Marcy but as soon as we are able to get that posted, we allow the membership 2 weeks to vote. And I feel like this is because I like flying by the seat of my pants. I talk about it like it's a bad thing, but it's actually part of my charm. And part of my charm. It really is who I am. And that's the other thing I love about this circle, is that we get to see, hear, and acknowledge each other just as we are. And we get to celebrate that. We're not competing, we're empowering. So welcome, introduce, did that. Overview of giving structure, did that. Flow of evening. So we have 3 great presenters. We will go in alphabetical order. So we have Blue Mountain Clinic, Nicole with Blue Mountain Clinic, Sarah and Mac from I.R.C. Do you mind if I just abbreviate? Okay, thank you. And then we have Carol and Paulee. I almost said Paula, sorry. From the YWCA, they will be presenting. They have 20 minutes each, and in that they've been advised to leave some time for questions and answers. So we want you to interact, because when we're done, like I said, an email will go out as soon as we're able to post the videos online. You'll be able to watch them again if you want, and then you get to cast your vote. All 3 finalists. So. The other 2 still get $1,000. That goes into their unrestricted funds, because we don't, depending on what their project is, it may not get the project done, so we don't want to micromanage that. And then our $10,000 grant recipient will give a presentation in the summer, which is our grant report. And that's the only grant report we have. We have a lot of nonprofit people in our circle, and we know what grants entail. Just saying. So I want to also do some special thank yous, and this is not in alphabetical order, so I'm going to just speak them, and then if I forgot someone's going to help me out, because that's what we do, we have each other's back. So I want to thank Grizzly Liquor if you're a wine drinker. That's the reason you have wine to drink. I want to thank the Good Food Store for $100 to add to the goodies that are on the table. I want to thank our amazing steering committee, who have also brought the sweet and savory treats. So if you're on the steering committee, could you just stand up and let us acknowledge you? They have worked incredibly hard this year. And I think on so many levels. The one thing I will say is that when we have the privilege of living a life where we get to give back, the important thing to remember is whatever we do, whether we're the employee at a nonprofit, or we're on the board, or we're in a committee, or we chair a committee, and maybe don't do all of the work, but we delegate really well. Whatever we do, it's enough, and it makes a difference. And I want to thank each of you for making a difference. I want to thank, did I say Grizzly Liquor? Yeah. I called out Mary from MCAP, but I just want to do it again. It really is so incredibly helpful for us to have the quality videos, because I'm telling you what, you would know if I took them. They would not look like that. They would sound like that. It would be enough, because whatever we do, it's enough. However, this is way better. So thank you, Mary Gray. Let's give it up. I did turn 56 last Saturday. I want to thank, I wrote it down. Let's see if I can. Fish Creek Floral. Thank you for the beautiful centerpiece of Fish Creek Floral. And I also want to give a big shout out to Kathy and her husband, Jay Kirby. Kathy Witkowski and Jay Kirby. Because that's the reason we have this wonderful PA system. And then the last shout I want to give, and I think all of you have heard this, but maybe not, is that last year, 2 years ago, something like that. That's how I cover my butt when I can't remember the details. But we decided that, and along with the Missoula Community Foundation, that we would remain a program of the Missoula Community Foundation. And that would be the future of the Giving Circle. And I'm telling you, we wouldn't be what we are if it weren't for the Missoula Community Foundation. So I want to thank Marcy Allen. And Marcy's a great mentor, great teacher, and I'm very grateful for our Missoula Community Foundation. But we have to tell you it takes the cake and nuts. Because all the cool stuff you see, the wonderful ways that we're moving forward, all that behind the scenes work is because of you, Ann. And I do think, I'm going off the cuff, I do think it is so important to really acknowledge that, because what we're doing, you know, I get it. Some people think $10,000, just nonprofits is a lot of money. To other people, maybe not as much. But you know what really has value is how we keep growing together. We keep broadening our circle. We keep empowering and inspiring others to see that we all truly are philanthropists. Whether we can write a big check or not, if we give a minute, we make a difference in the lives of someone. So I want to thank you all for the way you make a difference, and we are going to call up Nicole, Smith. Sorry, Kathy. Please make sure you sign up if you haven't signed up. Also, please make sure this microphone doesn't cross in front of the speakers, or we will have wonderful sound effects.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for sharing all this delicious food with us tonight. So my name is Nicole Smith. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director of the Mountain Clinic. I've been in that role for about 2 years now. A little bit about me. I'm a fifth-generation Montanan. Grew up in Helena. My folks are both from the Flathead Valley, and they've retired back up there, so I'm glad to be close to home. And I've been in Missoula about 4 years now. I hold a PhD in public health, and my area of research, public health research, was access to contraception and abortion. And I was not destined for the traditional academic track, so I was excited to move back home to Montana and have been working more in the advocacy, and found myself running a clinic that provides abortion care. So I am very excited to present to you tonight about our internal access fund. So we use that fund to help our patients who can't afford the cost of abortion care, gender-affirming care, and contraceptive care. So a little bit of history of Blue Mountain Clinic, which I'm sure a lot of you know. We were established in 1977 by a group of strong feminist women as the first abortion provider in the state of Montana, just 4 years after Roe v. Wade in 1973. We have continued to expand the services that the clinic provides over time to meet the needs of the community. And we are one of only 3 abortion providers in the state of Montana, with Planned Parenthood of Montana having 4 clinics, and All Families Healthcare up in Whitefish. Both Blue Mountain Clinic and the Helena Planned Parenthood provide procedural abortion care up to 21 weeks and 6 days. And Helen is a nurse practitioner in Whitefish, and she provides procedural care up to 12 weeks. And then all of us do medication abortion, including medication abortion by mail. And that goes up to 11 weeks of gestation. Blue Mountain Clinic has a very unique model. We are one of the only clinics in the country. I think that there's 5 of us that have this model of providing primary care and have fully integrated abortion care into those services. So we are a very unique service delivery model. We have just launched a new website 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to be pulling some slides from the new website, which I'm very proud of. It was a year in the making. This is our new logo at the bottom. Just felt like it was time to modernize a bit. So our mission is to provide comprehensive and evidence-based primary health care services in a compassionate and empowering environment to all persons who seek it. We are especially honored to provide abortion care, gender-affirming care, mental health care, Suboxone treatment to folks with an opioid use disorder, all of these as essential and fully integrated components of primary health care and all under one roof. So here's our front homepage of our new website, vibrant, fun, and this is part of my contribution and all of our clinicians there, of course, are providing evidence-based health care, but with the attacks that we're seeing on abortion care right now and gender-affirming care, we just really wanted to highlight that all of this is, of course, in compliance with very robust data and evidence and clinical guidelines. And we, with what's happening in our region and with the recent legislative session, we're hearing from so many Montanans across the state that they are really confused about the state of legal abortion right now. And so we are trying to really highlight to everyone that abortion is legal in Montana. Unfortunately, that is not the case for our neighbors. North Dakota currently has no access. It's completely illegal in South Dakota, and Idaho has implemented a 6-week ban. We are seeing a lot of folks from Idaho right now, and they are incredibly scared. They are so fearful that coming across the border and getting care is still going to land them in jail. So our abortion care team is spending a lot of time talking to folks about, we're not sharing medical records, we will not call, we will not share information with the police. And it is a really sad situation of what we're dealing with right now. And of course, we got the injunction on the SB 99 bill and have put the gender-affirming care ban on hold while that plays out in courts. Feeling very grateful that our young people under the age of 18 can still access gender-affirming care in Montana. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of a fun historical timeline. Again, this is on our website, so just some kind of key dates of Blue Mountain Clinic's history. So in 1973, of course, we have the Roe v. Wade decision. In 1976, Blue Mountain Women's Clinic, articles of incorporation are filed, and the clinic opens in 1977. In 1978, they move into a larger downtown space where they're able to expand access and do things like annual exams. And then our internal access fund, which is what we're talking about today, has actually been around since 1979. And the need for an access fund is because a lot of insurance, health insurance programs do not cover the cost of abortion care, and this, for most folks, coming up with even $300 can be really tricky. So that we dip into our access fund when we have patients who need that extra financial subsidization. In the early 80s, the clinic expanded to provide prenatal and pediatric care. Unfortunately, we got priced out of the prenatal obstetric care a while ago, but they did provide that service for quite some time. And then in 1983, they started their community education program, and that was the first year of Blue Mountain Women's Clinic annual all women's run. This is an artist up here who's done these beautiful drawings of all the independent abortion clinics in the country, so this is one that they made for Blue Mountain Clinic. In 1991, the clinic expands to become a full primary care clinic. So we had some internal medicine docs and family medicine docs come into the practice at that time and truly grew the clinic. and then changed the name from Blue Mountain Women's Clinic to just Blue Mountains Clinic to reflect that change and be more of an inclusive space for everyone. Some of you might remember that in 1993, the clinic was firebombed, so completely destroyed. Luckily, it happened in the middle of the night and no one was hurt. The person who did this had actually bombed a clinic in Idaho as well, and they did end up catching that person. So they were in kind of a strip mall at the time, and we just recognized the 30-year anniversary of that devastating moment. So Willa Craig, who was the executive director at the time, is quoted in the Missoulian, "Our commitment to justice and dignity in healthcare in the Missoula community cannot be consumed by an arsonist match." I think that's a really powerful quote. So the community rallies around the clinic. It's really amazing to think about what that must have looked like, and they established the clinic that we're currently in 1995. And they built us a fortress, and I'm incredibly grateful for the clinic that they built. They were thinking ahead and made it very fireproof and bullet resistant glass, and it's an incredibly secure and also lovely space, so we're very grateful for that. And then in 1999, we were starting to see some of the anti-abortion rhetoric coming up, and Montana providers were fighting back. So Dr. Armstrong, who was an abortion provider up in Kalispell, had filed a lawsuit against the state of Montana, and the Montana Supreme Court unanimously decided in 1999 that Montanans had the right to abortion care given Armstrong protections and privacy. So that is a court case that we rely heavily on today. And then I'm going to skip ahead to more recent times here. So in 2021, the state legislature starts passing we have no longer a Democratic governor, which of course we had for 16 years with the veto pen at the governor's office. So in 2021, they were able to pass 4 anti-abortion laws they passed them. Planned Parenthood at the time was the only plaintiff that took those on. So luckily, all 4 of those are enjoined, and that included some major restrictions on medication abortion, I think a 15-week ban, and some other restrictions, but those are not in effect while those lawsuits play out. And then just last year, so this is now when I'm coming onto the scene and executive director of Blue Mountain Clinic, so one of the other laws that they passed in 2021 was this really terrible law that the antis have called Born Alive, and essentially would have forced any pediatrician neonatologist with an infant born who had a fetal diagnosis that was non-compatible with life, they would have been forced to provide life-saving, extraordinary life-saving measures to that infant. And that would be things like intubation, needles, all of that. And really, in that moment, those parents just needed to hold their baby in their arms and say goodbye. So incredibly devastating bill, and would have forced any provider who didn't comply with that to be in prison for up to 20 years. So Montana was the first state in the country to see that put in front of the voters. So we stood up a campaign called the No on LR 131 campaign. You might have remembered that, it wasn't too long ago. And I will just say that the polling showed us having no path to victory. There was almost no money that supported that campaign. We were a scrappy group of folks that just felt like we had to try. And in the end, we defeated it by a 6-point margin. So, very excited and grateful that Montanans were paying attention and that we got our message out. We ran about $1 million campaign at the end of the day, which was actually quite a lot. We thought originally getting 200,000 was going to be a big deal. And this was an article that ran in many newspapers across Montana, and all of those names are healthcare providers that were signing their names onto a no vote. So just really grateful for all those folks who stood up. And then here we are today in 2023. We just survived a very difficult legislative session. They passed 9 anti-abortion bills this time, and we have successfully enjoined through lawsuits 4 of those bills. The other 3 technically don't really have an impact, so those bills are in effect and we are complying with those laws. But the other 4 are enjoined, and we feel like we have a really strong chance of seeing those fully defeated as they play out through the courts. And that includes a D&E ban, which is the most common procedure performed for most abortions after 15 weeks, bans on telehealth, and a big one, ban on Medicaid coverage for abortion care. So Montana is one of only 16 states in the country that has state Medicaid funding that covers abortion care. It's incredibly wonderful that we have that, and they finally kind of picked up on that, and they're going after it in big ways. And we have legal precedents as to why we have that law in effect in Montana, and so I think we have a good chance of maintaining Medicaid coverage. And the Blue Mountain Clinic is also, and all families up in Whitefish were also plaintiffs in a federal lawsuit. You might have heard that there's a lawsuit playing out that started in Amarillo, Texas to try and stop mifepristone, which is one of the 2 pills used in medication abortion. They're trying to say that the FDA did not approve that medication correctly in 2000. So we've got 23 years of great safety data and millions of users of this medication, and they're trying to completely take it off the markets. And that would be nationwide. It would include states that have legal access to abortion. So because of our Attorney General, many states have filed a lawsuit in Washington and gotten protections out of the Ninth Circuit. And those are states that have good, blue states that have access to abortion. Montana, Virginia, and Kansas are all anti-attorney generals, so we had to file our own lawsuit in the Fourth Circuit, which is in Virginia, and we're trying to get those same protections as the blue states. So we have optimism from that judge that he will grant us those protections if the Supreme Court ends up hearing that case, and we have to challenge that. So we're very honored to provide, continue to provide this comprehensive family medicine and abortion care. Here's a list of our services that the clinic is providing today. We have 1 mental health therapist on staff. She takes a lot of referrals internally from our own patients. It's a really nice system. And we've just released our latest impact report. So this is with 2022 data. We provided over 13,000 services to almost 3,500 unique patients last year. We provided 489 patients with wellness exams. 128 of those were folks under the age of 18, and we do see a Medicare population. Provided 133 wellness exams to Medicare patients. Provided 921 vaccines. We're currently seeing 191 transgender patients, and 139 HIV tests for biopsies and cervical cancer, and we have over 100 patients receiving mental health care at the clinic. We had an opportunity to bring in a photojournalist from Reuters last year, and this is a picture of Dr. Caitlin Blau performing an abortion. So these pictures are now available through the Reuters site, and it's very expensive for us to get access to these photos, so we can show them and things like this, but we can't put them on our website because we don't actually own the pictures. But it was a really cool experience to have them come in and document. This is Julie Millette, our RN, also holding the hand of a patient during an abortion procedure. And this is Dr. Rabbits, who does only family medicine and takes care of more of our older population, and he's seen a patient there. So, we believe that access to healthcare is a human right and that cost should never be a barrier. Part of our model right now is 40% of our patients are enrolled in Medicaid. And for our abortion patients, we work closely with our statewide abortion fund, the Montana Abortion Access Program, and we work together with our internal fund and them to help provide that financial support to anybody who needs it. So a little bit more about our access fund. Again, we subsidize the cost of abortion, contraception, and gender-affirming care for those without insurance and those with high deductibles. And women are the vast majority of recipients of these funds. The cost of an abortion ranges from $300 to $1,800, and that's a lot of money for some folks to come up with. And then we also provide assistance if they need help getting here, so they might need gas cards or money to have a hotel room. We also subsidize the cost of child care. So in 2022, from our internal access fund, we used about $18,000, and that supported 82 individuals, with the average subsidization being about $219. And so far this year, we've actually been relying on MAP a lot more. They've had a lot more capacity to fund patients. So we've only used about $6,500 in our internal fund, and that supported 46 patients with an average of 141 per patient. So yeah, we would use this $10,000 to fully fund our access fund, and that could support approximately 45 individuals at that average amount of about $219. And we do predominantly serve individuals within Missoula County and City. However, we are serving a lot of folks that have to travel into Missoula to get this care, both from across Montana as well from the region. And we've been seeing some patients from Texas and other restricted states as well. And yeah, this is our values. You know, we just believe that healthcare is for everybody, and we really hold this value close to our hearts, and how we provide healthcare every day. We have a really amazing healthcare team. And that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So for those of you that haven't been to a finalist presentation before, we have about 5 minutes. If there are any questions, please do feel free, and don't censor yourself. Any questions you might have, please ask Elise. I'll be like you feel.
What are the qualifications for people to access the access fund? Like, is it just based on, do they have, I mean, what is the need threshold, I guess?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we really do it on a patient-by-patient basis. So typically when our folks are scheduling an appointment, they'll tell them how much it's going to cost, and then they'll ask them, and there's sort of a financial aid counseling process that they go through. Do you plan to use your insurance for this? Would you be able to come up with the money for this? And then if they say no, then they say, okay, what do you think you could contribute? And then let that person come up with a number that they think is reasonable for them. And then the questions become like, if you gave that amount, would you be able to pay your rent this month? Would you be able to buy groceries? Would you be able to afford childcare? And so they kind of work through those questions and get a really good sense of like what this individual needs. You know, a lot of folks that come down from, or like come in from Eastern Montana, like they might be really worried about the travel, and so we'll work with them to figure out like what does that look like for you? What do you need as far as gas money or hotels, and you know, and also like knowing that we need to make these monies stretch as far as we can to help as many people as we can. We try to be, you know, reasonable around meeting people where they're at, and also making sure that they're able to contribute what they can.
So with the availability of MAP funding to cover abortion care, will the access fund be able to provide more contraceptive care or gender affirming care if this grant comes?
Yeah, I believe we would. In fact, we have just recently expanded the access fund's use for gender affirming care. Folks that are needing to, you know, buy needles and things like that for testosterone injections or whatever, those costs have really been adding up for some of our patients. So we've decided to start using these access funds for that. So I do think it would open up a lot more money for patients that needed help with those other costs for contraception and gender affirming care. And I think we could kind of take some burden off of MAP, and you know, their numbers that we're serving through MAP are through the roof right now. Also,
have you started to see the effects of the Medicaid redetermination and enrollment, and what do you predict will happen?
it's heartbreaking. Yes, we are seeing so many patients who used to qualify for Medicaid that no longer do, or who have Medicaid and now they've lost it. And it is putting a huge burden on the abortion fund. So I sit on the board of MAP, and the amount of funding that we have had to subsidize in the last several months is nearly double what it was the previous months to that. So yeah, and just the stress and anxiety of the patients that we're working with who didn't get the letter in time, didn't know about the re-enrollment, you know, I mean, all of that, and it's just really heartbreaking.
Can you talk a little bit about how maybe the pressures of some of these states that have banned abortion have put on sort of like having things done within the 12 weeks and what that looks like for your clinic and maybe other clinics across the state?
So at Blue Mountain Clinic, we go to 22 weeks. What do you mean by the 12 weeks?
Well, I guess more sort of like if people are trying to make decisions and they can't get services wherever they're at, right? Has the increase of out-of-state patients hindered your ability to provide services to, you know, Missoula regional patients, or how are people getting served with sort of an increase probably with services within Montana?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, unfortunately, we are not seeing the surge in Montana that we thought we would and that we are prepared for. So I'm spending a lot of my time right now calling clinics in Illinois and New Mexico that have a 3-week wait list, and I'm saying we could get them in tomorrow. We have huge capacity in Montana to see a ton more patients. And I think one of the hypotheses of the abortion movement was that people would readily get on a plane and fly somewhere where they could, especially if the cost of that airline ticket was covered. And what we're finding from like a solid 80% of patients is they're like, I've never been to Montana. Why would I get on an airplane and go get an abortion there when my uncle couldn't drive and come pick me up if something went wrong? Right? And so it's like this huge like specter of the unknown, and it's so far away from home for people that we, you know, but my hypothesis is that there's still 10 to 20% of people that would feel comfortable traveling. And so how do we identify those folks and get them into states that have availability so that you can take the burden off of the clinics in Illinois and Florida and New Mexico that are completely overrun? So we really haven't like experienced a huge surge that is impacting either our abortion availability or our family practice at Blue Mountain Clinic. I think that we can do a better job of advertising in places like Idaho and South Dakota to get them into Montana for medication abortion. So that might be like, they have to make that decision within the first 11 weeks of pregnancy. But the great thing about the 2 independent clinics is that if they come within the borders, we will send those pills to their hotel room or a UPS box or whatever. Planned Parenthood is making a little more conservative decision, and the patients actually have to go to their clinic physically. So there is a little bit of a different approach in that way right now. But we're trying to provide as much access within the legal bounds of what we can work in right now.
Thank you. There may be more questions, but we want to make sure that we share the time. So we will be done at approximately 7:35, and so please feel free, if you didn't get to your question, to know that our presenters will still be available to you. One of the challenges that the steering committee of the Giving Circle has is we had 13 amazing applicants, and being true to my humanness, you know, my laptop, I forgot to thank the other 10 applicants, because we had 13 amazing applications. And one of the things that we're grappling with is how to let you know about the other applications. And so hopefully next year we'll have a system in place, and we're going to provide you an opportunity to be involved with that. But in the meantime, am I doing this right, Mary? Awesome. In the meantime, though, our goal when we meet and we go to the finalists to provide you 3 diverse applications serving 3 different needs of the grant focus, which this year is women's issues. So I have the privilege, but Mac, I forgot to ask your name, so you'll be chopped liver. But I want to introduce from the International Rescue Committee, Sarah Howerton, and I never checked out if I say it correctly.
Got it.
And Mac, chopped liver. So this is the International Rescue Committee.
I'm sorry, Mac, please tell me.
And I'm Matt Gwinner. My last name's Gwinner. And I'm the mental health navigator at the I.R.C, and I've been there approximately 2 years in a few different capacities.
Yeah, we have a lot of information to cover and not a lot of time, so I'll kind of dive right in. But I also just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for being here and just giving us the opportunity as a finalist to share about who we are, what we do, and our Women's Wellness Group program that we are planning on getting off the ground pretty soon here. So yeah, in the next 15 minutes or so, we'll go over the International Rescue Committee as an organization, kind of who we are and what we do in Missoula, because it is a large organization. The refugee resettlement process, I'm curious, by show of hands, is anyone familiar with the refugee resettlement process? Okay, that's good, that's good. So yeah, I'll kind of breeze through that, and then I'll turn it over to Mac to really dive into the program that we are piloting. So the I.R.C. was founded in 1933. It's an international NGO / nonprofit. And yeah, founded in 1933, the early mission was to help European academic scientists and artists who were fleeing persecution by the Nazis. And the mission sort of evolved. We stayed on to help thousands more people flee. And today, we kind of have two major areas of programming. Our international humanitarian aid programs, we respond in a number of capacities to different conflicts, disasters, wars as things are unfolding. And here in the United States, we conduct refugee resettlement programs. Missoula is one of 29 field offices. We're headquartered in New York City, where we receive basically financial and programmatic oversight, and we have an advocacy team based out of Washington, D.C. So specifically, the I.R.C. in Missoula, we haven't been in Missoula too terribly long. We opened in 2016 at the invitation of another local organization, Soft Landing Missoula. I'm sure many people are familiar with that organization. Since then, we've resettled over 600 individuals into our Missoula community from 9 different countries. In the most recent couple of years, the majority of the people that we are resettling are coming from Syria, Afghanistan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, but we've also had families from Eritrea, Iraq, Iran, Burma, Yemen, and Ukraine. It averages out to about 115 individuals per year, and then this coming fiscal year, which for us started October 1st, we anticipate resettling 140 individuals. So whether we are responding to crises internationally or conducting refugee resettlement here, the mission of the International Rescue Committee is the same. It remains to help people whose lives are shattered by conflict and disaster to recover and gain control of their futures. So we're really focused on helping people to reclaim their lives, have a sense of agency, a sense of choice, and kind of be able to build their lives here. So I do want to take a moment to kind of look at the word refugee. I think it does get used incorrectly a lot, and so I just want to define it and make sure we're all thinking about it in the same way. So even though there are globally over 100 million individuals who are displaced by either conflict, war, famine, disaster, approximately 29.4 million of those individuals hold refugee status, and it is a legal status as defined by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in the 1951 Refugee Convention. So in order to get refugee status, an individual must have fled their country and crossed an international border doing so. They must be unable to return to their home country. They must be unable to return to their home country based on a well-founded fear of persecution due to race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. So again, those 29.4 individuals with refugee status, one of the options for them, if they're unable to return home, if they can't for some reason stay in their host country, is to be resettled in another country like the United States, Canada, Germany, along those lines. And long story short, Missoula, Montana is one of those destinations that people might find themselves in, which is really cool. So we, over the last probably 2 years, have done a lot of growth, but our first and primary sort of area of programming is the reception and placement program. So anyone arriving to Missoula kind of goes through this program, and it's focused on core services, and think of sort of Maslow's hierarchy. We are really focused in those early days helping people find shelter, housing, making sure that they have an income, whether it's through public benefits or through employment as quickly as possible. We help people get access to healthcare services in the community, get kids enrolled into school or daycare. We have immigration services and help them with adjusting their legal status as time goes on. And this program is sort of capped at 90 days. And if you can try to imagine trying to start your life over somewhere and have it all figured out in 90 days. It's quick, and that's sort of a federal timeline that we abide by. So we also have a couple of economic empowerment programs. We have a matching grant employment program, which focuses on getting people in jobs that are of interest to them, that pay decent wages, that might have pathways to advancement. We just started a financial coaching program, which is really exciting, and by just, I mean about 2 weeks ago, so more to come on that. We have the Refugee Support Services program, as well as we're getting a career pathways development program off the ground as well. So a lot of really exciting growth more recently that for the first time we're able to kind of address needs and gaps beyond those kind of critical basic needs. We have a supplemental case management program that's also pretty new for individuals who, beyond the capacity of the reception and placement or employment programs, if people are still needing more assistance, if they have certain circumstances that are challenging, health related, maybe they lose a job. This program really kind of helps them to access resources in the community and just helps them kind of develop the skills to navigate those things. And lastly, our refugee health promotions programming. This provides further opportunities for our clients to access health and mental health services in the community. And then it's actually kind of where our Women's Wellness Groups program that we are investing funds for to get this program off the ground is housed, although it is in partnership with the supplemental case management program. And again, kind of coming back to the idea that these services that we have offered for several years really address the basic needs. We connect a lot of people to resources in the community, and this is true of Missoula, and it's true of any other city, large or small, that does refugee resettlement, is that a lot of our services are not geared towards or tailored to individuals who have the unique needs, unique barriers that our clients are facing. And so services might exist, but a lot of times the refugee population does fall through the cracks. So with that, I will hand it over to Mac to talk about our Women's Wellness Group program.
Thank you. You'll have to bear with me. I haven't used the microphone since high school. I'm having some flashbacks. So. But yeah, so while we're here, we are requesting funds for our Women's Wellness program. This is going to be a pilot program just starting this year. We did something similar but not robust at all last year with some women's groups that were more support and kind of just social support focused. So we're hoping that we can expand upon that idea and create groups that are more robust and kind of support our communities a little bit better. I'm going to start though first with why the need exists. So research shows us that about 54% of refugees throughout the world will suffer from severe emotional disorders. Refugees are found to have about 10 times the rate of PTSD as general populations in the United States do. And then large-scale meta-analyses pretty much across the board find that 30% of displaced individuals throughout the world will suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's just one example. That doesn't even take into account the high rates of anxiety, high rates of depression, and high rates of other kind of severe emotional disorders that do exist within these communities. And that's all pre-migration trauma and pre-migration challenges that folks face. Post-migration research on displaced populations is just sort of starting to get off the ground a little bit, starting with right before COVID, and then COVID kind of shut everything down, as we know, included research on these populations. However, burgeoning research does indicate that post-migration, some of these trends do actually remain pretty much the same and actually increase as folks are resettled into communities. Those rates of PTSD, anxiety, depression, everything of that nature kind of do kind of shoot up as people are resettled. Challenges include linguistic, vocational, educational, social, everything kind of associated with living as a human being in our country. And we have found as well, research has found that stressors and these these challenges do disproportionately affect female-presenting populations within these communities. You can take some of those kind of numbers and just basically increase them for any female population. And the largest kind of challenge that our women face within these communities is social and emotional isolation. I read a study recently that social isolation is equivalent to smoking about 15 cigarettes a day. And it's about how detrimental it can be to your health overall. And so this program is really geared toward helping to support folks to increase their social and emotional support networks, and then also to have some different educational opportunities and informational opportunities around nutrition, health, and wellness just in general. So there's a number of different barriers that our clients and folks that we serve do face as they kind of integrate into the community. And I should preface this by saying these aren't exclusive to Missoula by any means. This is pretty much nationwide and across the board. People do suffer from these barriers and do kind of get restricted from these barriers. And Missoula is, generally speaking, a little bit better than some of our other communities throughout the United States. For example, our bus system is free, whereas in other cities it might cost money. However, it's still a physical barrier because all of the bus systems are in English and not geared toward non-English-speaking populations. You can imagine when you travel to a foreign country, you're trying to read a sign, you're getting lost, you're trying to figure out where you are. Right now, that's your daily living, and that's your ability to try and access care. Same kind of with healthcare and mental health care as well. For those physical barriers, cultural barriers exist as well. Child rearing norms within different cultures do kind of differ from our own. More often than not, our female-presenting individuals are responsible for the majority of the child care. That's often on top of work and on top of getting to health appointments, on top of trying to settle into a new house. And so just, that kind of restricts a lot of being able to engage with different social programs that might already exist within a community. That also has to do with gathering norms too. Gathering norms are different. Our male-presenting populations are really great at gathering. They go play volleyball, soccer, all these things together. It's awesome to see. However, more often than not, that's not an encouraged practice within a lot of the cultures that we do work with for our female-presenting populations. So really giving them space to be able to do that and to be able to gather is vitally important to supporting their social, emotional, and physical health. And then the final kind of barrier, and this is by no means exhaustive, I should say that, but our final barrier is the language barrier. Basically anything that's been translated and then back translated into another language is found, whether it's healthcare or mental health care, has been found to be about 2 to 3 times less effective than if it's administered in their native language. And so a group of this nature would give folks kind of the ability to gather and share information with one another, and potentially with other presenters from their native cultures to be able to have greater access into those different resources, educational and informational. So why a group? Why not just spend money on sending people to like Western therapeutic programs? Basically, I was talking to a woman named Dr. Susie Ishmael. She runs like a really wonderful emotional support program on the East Coast called Cornerstone. And she told me at one point, anecdotally, about 70 to 80% of folks that you work with from within the refugee population will go to Western therapeutic programs once, and then they'll just never show up again. It's not anything that's meant to offend any therapist or anything like that. It's just not the way that social, emotional, and wellness in general is supported within many of the cultures that we work with. So because of that, we've been kind of, as an organization, shifting focus from individual therapeutic and wellness interventions into community as an intervention. So providing a space where people can lean on the community support that exists to help them to grow out of the trauma they might have faced, help them to connect to one another and lessen that social and emotional isolation that is occurring. Social isolation being kind of not your ability to like access friends or a support network, whereas emotional is having that network when you are from a multi-generational home disappear once you enter into the United States and you're now alone. And then finally, community as a practice does provide really wonderful opportunities communities for practical, informational, and emotional support. So these groups are, as kind of that effort, as Sarah highlighted, we are fairly good at covering the bottom tier of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. However, now we're trying to expand and create better support networks that do help to kind of support some of those more complex needs that might exist within the communities. And one of those large-scale gaps that exists in the Missoula displaced community is our female-presenting individuals able to access into support networks. And so this would be a group that met bi-weekly, about twice a month, for about 6 months, 12 meetings total. And in this slide, I do highlight it'd be 12 meetings per community. Community would be divided by what your native language would be. So Arabic individuals would meet with all Arabic individuals. Dari and Pashto would meet with Dari and Pashto. That's just in an effort to alleviate some of that interpretive kind of snafus that can occur. I can tell you right now, if you meet in a room with like 7 different languages at one time, it just evolves into chaos in about 15 minutes. So it would be per community that we would be providing these groups, and we would be providing culturally appropriate food, drink, and child care for all of the women that did attend these groups. So the goals would be to provide a safe space for gathering. That's our most important goal. If we can do that, then we've won at the end of the day, honestly. In addition to that, we want to foster a greater sense of community for our women, our displaced women in the Missoula community. We want to help provide women with education around physical and mental health, help them to expand sort of their horizons within these realms. And then hopefully our end goal here, and I think we brought a few copies of a mock-up of these, would be to produce, a lot of our women love cooking. And last year when we did engage in this group, the best day, I provided childcare all of last year, which they loved because men usually help with childcare. So I was in the bathroom with about 15 to 16 children sprinting around, and they loved checking in and seeing me trying to corral kids. And it was not great, but one of the best days was we spent a day cooking and sharing recipes with one another, and they brought me back all the food that they had cooked. And for the next 6 weeks or so, every time I visit a woman, I would hear about this group and how wonderful it was to share a recipe. And so hopefully our goal would be to produce a cookbook of some nature that kind of connects into the story of the individual, so giving them a voice, giving them a platform to speak to their experience, and then also a way of sharing recipes across cultures. And then finally, we do just want to provide a space and environment in which displaced voices, needs, wants, and are amplified and centered. And so hopefully with the support of you all, or just in general, we can get this group off the ground and going and help to support our female presenting individuals in the displaced community.
So thank you, Sarah and Mac. So we have about 3 minutes for questions, but a reminder that we will have some time at the end of the evening for you all to socialize. So I already see a hand up, but I'm giving it back to you guys. Yes, guys. So it's Kathy. Oh, sorry, I closed my head. Yeah, no,
Thank you so much for the presentation and your work. I'm wondering if you could break down how that $10,000 would be used in your budget.
Great question. And so, kind of from the budgetary perspective, the $10,000 would, by and large, go to support the sort of activities, the production of a finalized cookbook at the end. So, without the $10,000, these groups will proceed, and they will continue to be as Max said, like what they were initially, which is more of like a social gathering. But with the $10,000, that would go towards culturally appropriate food and refreshments.
I'm sorry, can you go the mic, please, because it's being recorded? Yes. Sorry, just no worries.
Go towards providing food at all of the meetings. It would go towards providing materials, pens, notebooks, things for people to journal in. It would go towards purchasing groceries. So for every language group, we've sort of budgeted for 3 separate cooking sessions, so that purchases ingredients, cooking implements, for people to be able to participate in the cooking workshops. We're currently administering a needs assessment to kind of determine what activities these women might like to participate in. And so we've also budgeted for the possibility of bringing in presenters or people to conduct different workshops on storytelling, on anything like that. So the $10,000 and also would go, like I mentioned, to the production of these cookbooks that could then be shared among the community. So the $10,000 really allows us to enrich this program with all of these things beyond the very important but just sort of minimal social gathering.
And sorry, a follow-up question, have other I.R.C. groups in other places done this sort of thing?
Yes, similar, they've, at different IRCs throughout the country have administered different programs. And so one really cool example of that is there was a similar program that was done in, I believe it was in our Phoenix office, where they basically made a quilt together through a grant and were able to make this quilt. That was a story quilt, and the women of that group were able to gather for about, I think it was like 12 weeks or something, and create a story quilt with one another. That's the best example I have of it happening in other places.
Thank you. So again, thank you so much, Mac and Sarah. And reminder, they will be available after. So our third finalist, so again, we talk about wanting to give our membership a diverse choice of the application. And I'm not going to go on that tangent until after the fact. So I would like to introduce Carol Roberts. I swear you emailed me, but I was like not sure if I had it right. So sorry, Mac, not John. So we have Carol Roberts and Paulee Small with the YWCA.
Hi, I'm Carol Roberts. I'm the clinical manager at the YWCA. And Paulee is with me. She's one of our amazing counseling interns, sexual assault advocates, group facilitators. What else do you want to say about yourself?
I'm from Montana. I'm Northern Cheyenne,
I'm super lucky to have Paulee on my team. But I just want to acknowledge something, because listening to our other presenters, thinking about all of the loss to abortion care, gender affirming care, thinking about the trauma of refugees, I'm just so grateful that we opened our minds and hearts to that in the context of people who are stepping in and supporting. But I'm still feeling like, whew, and so I want to give you all a chance to do this, because we're about to talk about rape. So, just saying, I'm going to be happier. Our little corner of the YWCA focuses on primarily sexual assault. We also support our domestic violence services. And so I don't have information about the whole of the YWCA, but everything we do is in the context of being part of an organization that runs our domestic violence shelter, our family housing program that's a collaboration with Family Promise, that is the GUTS empowerment group for youth, Planet Kids, supervised visitation programs. I don't know, I feel like we do a lot of things. But what we focus on here is our sexual assault response program. So this is a need that increases every year. And we're part of our Pathways program that serves domestic violence survivors. That includes our emergency shelter, 24-hour crisis hotline, walk-in counseling, advocacy support groups, counseling services, and then our team of advocates who are on call 24 hours a day to collaborate with our community partners when somebody shows up and has experienced a sexual assault. So whether they show up at an emergency room, at law enforcement, or at First Step, where the forensic nurses do their magic, the agreement in Missoula is to call an advocate. And so that's our 24-hour crisis line, and then they call Paulee or any of 12 other people right now. And I can't tell you how much of an honor it is to work with those people who will get up at 2 a.m. and go, sure, I'm heading to the ER, I'll be there. And so a lot of why we are here is because this is supported with money that we scratch and find all over the place. Because I do like to be able to offer a stipend to people that I'm asking to do that. And it pays for their gas, and maybe they can get a sandwich if they didn't have time for lunch. But otherwise, they're doing it out of just, being the person who will show up. These are some of the lovely people who do this job. A lot of what? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do out on the call? Kind of the
one of my first calls for shadowing with another person kind of turned out odd. I was told it wasn't typical, but it was an Indigenous woman. I'm sorry, it's like emotional. Her interaction with all of our systems in Missoula, all of our institutions like law enforcement, the justice, healthcare, it created this concept for her that no one is trustworthy, no one is safe, and so that was like a really hard call for everyone, not just myself, but all the same nurses. It was very, she was very aggressive. And so it prevented us from doing our work, but it did start a conversation of what could we have done different as far as serving the Indigenous community that I'm people of color who see the system as like not a safe place. That was my very first call. It was like, whoa. And then so I did go back again, and so that the next call I went on was also not typical.
Guess what? There's no typical.
Yeah, I slowly learned there's no typical. But I showed up and they accepted it's an option if you want an advocate. And we're there, we're ready. If they say no, it's okay, we go home, but most of the time they'll say yeah. And what we do is we go in and we sit with the victim or the survivor. And we literally just rub their back if that's what is happening. We give them safety planning. We just come alongside them and sit with them in the most challenging experience of their life. And we go into the exam room alongside them. So we continue the whole process throughout their time there. And we just offer counseling, kind of crisis counseling. One time I sat outside in the cold shivering while she smoked her cigarette and calmed back down so we could finish the whole exam. So it's a lot of, it's heavy, but it's very, very needed.
So our goal is to make sure that every survivor knows about the resources available, about what their options are. about what their options are, whether they want to report this to law enforcement or not. And what kind of care is available to them and support following up, even to help them think through who you want to tell, how do you want to tell, how do you want to incorporate this into your story. Oh, there we go. Hang on. The slides went faster than I wanted to. And we mentioned that this need is increasing. And I will talk about last weekend as an example of that. Fortunately, not every day is like this, but the Sunday before this last one started out with an advocate getting a call from Ravalli County Police Department at 5 a.m. They had her number because she had supported someone the week prior who was now in need again. And she was refusing medical care, even though it was pretty urgent that she got medical care. And this survivor was saying, if you call my advocate, I'll go. And so they had her number. She was not the advocate on call. Her phone was ringing at 5 a.m. She met them at the ER. She called the advocate who was on call and said, hey, can you join? So that advocate got up and joined, but then didn't get to leave after that call because another one came in. She did get to go for a couple of hours and have lunch before the third call came in. And after 16 hours, on her very first shift ever, she went home. And so I was really grateful to have some funds available that I could send her out to dinner with her partner and go, thank you for that first day on the job, because it was intense. It's not always that intense, but it can be. That can be part of what it is. So what we're going to do is then pivot, because what we also offer are a lot of kind of support programs for people who are trying to heal and recover, whether from sexual assault or domestic violence. And as I'm sure you know, these overlap tremendously. Most people experiencing a sexual assault, it is by someone they know, and oftentimes by their intimate partner. And so we collaborate really closely with their shelter, because sometimes we're bringing people in. Maybe they just need a little bit of time to figure out what they're going to do next. Maybe they need a lot of time. But once we've got people on site in our shelter, or we have people coming in from the community also looking for support, we have our support groups that happen every Tuesday night. And one of them is a talking circle that Paulee has been facilitating for a little more than a year. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that and some of your dreams for that talking circle, because that's a lot of why we're here.
So when I came on to start Talking Circle, there wasn't really a structure in place. There was like, this is what people have done in the past. You can really kind of tailor it to what you need. I am not a ceremonial person, which is important to know for Indigenous people. I was raised with my traditional beliefs, and so I was able to step into this role and pair it with my current graduate program as clinical mental health counseling, and look at it from more of a systems perspective of, as Indigenous women, and just as women in general, we continue to be oppressed by different institutions, and even in our daily interaction. So how we are expected to present, how we are expected to portray our experiences, and the Talking Circle gives us a space to kind of process those things that society says we should be talking about. And it's an interesting role to be in, because I go to First Step and respond to essay as an essay advocate, and then I see them come through the system as a counselor and then as a Talking Circle facilitator, and to see their journey is really special, and to see those moments in our groups where they feel empowered and experience relief, that somebody is saying, yeah, your hardship, it might not be your fault. It might might be our economy, it might be other historical expectations that aren't trauma informed. So when we talk about systems, it gives them that relief of like, right, I can still succeed in life.
Oh, some of my dreams.
Some of my dreams for Talking Circle is to incorporate some indigenous games and approaches to and more of a therapeutic approach. So one of our more fun games that most tribes share, because there's tribal specific things, is called stick games, so also known as hand games. And my approach is to play the game in our group with processing how we develop and build trust again, and how do we trust ourselves to be able to make those judgment calls of who's safe, what's right for me. And so it's kind of marrying the two things. So using this grant would allow me to make those purchases for materials that are not typically found in Walmart or Target or Amazon, and to be able to use it in a more therapeutic way.
Yeah, as well as reading activities that you want to do, main activities that you want to do.
There's many, there's a list.
Yeah. So our overall goals for kind of these two pieces that intertwine and weave together is to continue to be able to provide the crisis response services that we do to everyone who requests it, 24 hours a day, every day of the year. And to maintain a really well-trained and well-prepared group of advocates who are doing that. Like I said, we've got about 13 right now, and that feels good. We don't have to ask too much of people, but they get to kind of get the involvement that they want. And to continue working with other community partners, All Nations Health Center, to make sure that we're supporting our indigenous population as well as we can, because one of the heartbreaking statistics is that that population is overrepresented in domestic violence and sexual assault. And otherwise also make ourselves just as trauma informed as we can be, so that we are building resilience and empowerment for survivors that we're working with. So, I don't know if this time, no, whoops. Doesn't really share Abby's story with you. I think that's on the little comments that we can't see, but what this story was, and this isn't really picture of her, so we're not violating anyone's confidentiality here. But this was just a couple of months ago. A survivor showed up at our Tuesday night open support group, just looking for somewhere to go where she could be with some other women, and told her story. She had been out of state and been sexually assaulted and had not trauma-informed treatment at law enforcement in the state that she was in, was blamed for what had happened to her, and faulted for some drugs that were in her system at the time. She made it back home to Missoula, but was not okay. Showed up at our group, and we let her know about First Step. And so she decided to go to First Step and have a rape kit done and get some medical care for herself. And so our advocate joined at First Step and supported her there. And in that process too, we realized she was eligible for our shelter. And so we brought her into shelter. And through that process, she was able to start to work on what she needed to get her child back who had been removed from her care, start her own healing, and reestablish herself in Missoula after some really traumatic experiences. And so she is an example of someone who utilized all the different pieces of what we do, but to support all of the needs that she had. Any questions? Because I forgot a lot of things.
So thank you first. And we have about 3 minutes for questions, but then remember, we have time to hang out.
I'm just curious, I know the incidence of reporting is going up, but do you have a sense of how many women would be participating, for example, in the talking circle, or how many women do you work with each year?
It depends in which aspect you mean. In the crisis response, where we go out, it's about 100 over the course of a year. People who come in for our counseling services, because everyone that we do crisis response with gets offered our free counseling. Not everyone, takes us up on that. But then some people access counseling because they came to support group or they're in our shelters. And so that is, I think the number of sessions we did last fiscal year was, I want to say 300 and something, and I can't remember the number of people that broke out to, but then the number of people who come to support group is another approximately 150 people in the year. And so of course these are not all necessarily unique individuals. Some of them are participating in multiple services. Yeah.
And also it's kind of like a revolving door, to be honest. The women can come back to group, so sometimes you get participants who have experienced SA and maybe domestic violence years ago and just need that additional support, so they are continuously coming back for support.
That's one of the most gratifying things is the number of times that someone has come to support group and said, I was just having a bad day and I knew this was going to be a really warm place to be with people who care, and that feels good.
So again, thank you to our 3 finalists. Congratulations on getting your presentations done. But I also want to applaud and congratulate you on all of the good work you're doing. And I know that it does, I just want to acknowledge what Carol said, that these are some heavy topics, but I believe we're up for the challenge. Because I moved to Missoula in 2000, and I have to tell you that I've experienced in Missoula, Montana, not that we're perfect, and we do lots of weird stuff, right? But the one thing that I've seen in all the different little parts of the community that I've had the privilege of connecting to is that much like the giving circle, we give, we decide, no, I'm kidding. That was a bad joke. It's part of my charm, part of my challenge. But is that we come together in many different meaningful ways. And I know this is a hard choice, and I'm so grateful we're gonna have time to absorb it, because I can imagine, much like last year, and I'm guessing Terry is here, I saw her, but right in front of my face, that's why I couldn't see you. Our previous, you're on time, Carol and Paulee. Our previous chair can tell you that each year, it's a challenge to make the choice. And so we wanna keep coming together in this way that exposes us, lets us consider, lets us challenge everything we know about the truth, to just be better versions of ourselves and to do more better together, and you do that. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Giving Circle. I want to thank the steering committee for the marathon back-to-back. We had a very big steering committee meeting last night. Sorry, Mary. And in that meeting, we got to talk about a lot of things. We're at a place, thanks to my predecessors, I don't know why I thought you were over there, I was just looking at you, like Terry and the women in 2018 who founded this Giving Circle, laid a great foundation. We continue to ground and grow together. we get challenged by the question, how do we diversify, how do we grow, how are we doing, how does our membership feel? So I'm gonna ask Jamie McConnell, who last night, actually kind of something we've been talking about all year, and I think we've talked with some of you about it, agreed to chair a task force for us. So I just want to tell her, have a minute to tell you about it, and then we will wrap around, talk about membership for a hot second. I have some hot news for you, and go from there. Jamie.
Jamie McConnell. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot over the past year is how do we diversify the circle. Diversity is important, equity and inclusion are important values to the Women's Giving Circle, and we want to see that reflected in our membership and in our steering committee. And so I'm going to be chairing an exploratory committee to figure out how do we do that. And I welcome any of you who are interested to join me. You can, I think we have a sign up sheet back there. You can see Kathy and see Kathy and sign up, and then I'll get in touch with you and we'll figure this out together. So, yeah.
And if you can't tell, we're often figuring things out together. Sometimes in the moment, we're doing that, right? And so I again just want to express my deep gratitude, and I get to announce, and I didn't ask Ann if there was an update, but the last live membership count of our Giving Circle is 93 women. 90 girls and non-binary individuals. I try my best to be politically correct and blow it all the time. So I am grateful for the gift of, I keep thinking about compassion and compassion if we leave ourselves out. And I've been really, that's been my mantra lately, because I've needed a lot of self-compassion. But I think it's so important that we continue to grow organically in the inclusive way, you know, honoring our values of community, equity, and inclusion. And so if you want to talk about our circle, I don't know if anyone here isn't a member, you're welcome to join us, but never an obligation, just an invitation. Because we give, decide, and benefit together in a way that increases our impact. And I think as we continue to do this and to grow, well, I can tell you my life's better because of all of you. So I thank you for that. Again, thank you to our finalists. Kathy's gonna say something.
Thank you, Dawn. I just wanted to point out that we have QR codes on the table. If anybody is ready to vote now, I guess the vote is ready. And also, if you're like me, think about, because the presentations were amazing. But if you are not a member and you'd like to join, there's a different piece of paper, several of the tables, and up here if you want to join immediately. And also there are stickers all around the flower decorations, and those are not just for decoration. You should take them and give them and put them on your water bottles and and I also have brochures.
I knew I was forgetting you, Kathy. Thank you. I'm so grateful for the way we have each other's back.
Just make me feel useful, Dawn.
No, you are useful. And, you know, if you want to thank someone for the fact that we have a lot of this stuff, again, I want to thank Ed Wilkes from the Missoula Community Foundation, and of course Marcy and the Missoula Community Foundation. And just so grateful to have a home. The other big announcement, I debated, but I think I'm going to make it, and then I'll beg your forgiveness if I offend anyone. But because we are 93 women and non-binary individuals strong, because we've done some work, we had a cha-ching committee, and I love that. That's the most fun name for budget task force I've ever heard. Because one of our goals is to become budget neutral for the community foundation, because it still costs them money to house us as a program. And that's a larger discussion James is gonna lead next year with all of you, because we're close, man, we are so close. But because of that, and this fabulous cha-ching committee, next year, we will be awarding $15,000. Maintain at this time the $1,000 to each of the other two finalists, as in whatever. That'll happen in Jamie's committee. We'll talk more about that. And Kathy gave us great starting places to have good discussion. And again, the other thing that, I'm just gonna take a breath. Because these were incredible presentations, and I'm trying to like pretend that I'm a wonderful facilitator. But I forgot. What did I forget, Jamie? Usually they all have my back. Kathy pipes up, someone pipes up. I think I forgot something. Oh, thank you. I knew if I was patient, I took enough breaths, we'd get there. So I want to tell you, please look for our newsletter that'll come out sometime mid-December where our winner gets announced. Also, our steering committee, we made a decision last night. We used to be a steering committee of 15, but in practical application, that wasn't what happened, so we changed it to 13. But now, we've gone back, we have a steering committee of 9 to 15 members because we realized we need more flexibility in that because we had 13 members all year this year, and up until one of them moved, and that spot's still open, Kat. And you knew that was coming. But we have 2 other spots. So we have 3 spots available on our steering committee. That application was in the newsletter that just went out. If you didn't get it, let me know, and I'm happy. You can contact me at wgcchair@gmail.com. Or it's not hard to find my number from someone. And if you're interested in joining the steering committee, it's a powerful group. I am always awed at the great intelligence, the incredible compassion, but also the wise, trust-based philanthropy kind of values that keep showing themselves up at that table. So now I'm going to stop taking all your time because I know you all have more questions. So here are our finalists. Please mingle. Thank you. Oh,